Hi everybody, hi Tama. Today we want to compare George R.R. Martin and J.R.R. Tolkien, the two greatest fantasy writers of all time, and their most important works, respectively, A Song of Ice and Fire and Lord of the Rings. Both of these stories are super popular, have been made into a TV series and 3 movies. They have huge following.
Great stories, both
Great
of them.
stories. A lot of things are similar. It's a fantasy world, in both stories, with all kind of different magical creatures, like humanoid.
History.
Its own history, right? And both have glass candles, the crystal balls, the glass candles, right? And of course, magic. So a lot of similarities, but there are a lot of differences. The most apparent one to me is that The Song of Ice and Fire is a realistic story, a political story, and George.R.R. Martin goes through painstaking detail, explaining all the different political systems and societies everywhere he is, even the Dothraki, the Free Cities, the North, the South, the East, everything. You have like traditions and social contracts, etc. But Lord of the Rings, the politics there are way simpler.
Yeah, they're basically absent from the story. A king is a king, no one questioned that. There are no factions.
No faction.
They don't need to do political maneuvers, create alliances.
They do have to create an alliance, a fellowship, if you will. The humans with the other humanoids, all united against one evil, dangerous empire. Our society is a good society. The other society is a bad and evil society, and in that respect, it's super simple and couldn't be more different than A Song of Ice and Fire.
You have this character, Wormtongue. We don't get the sense that Wormtongue has this personal ambition, this rage or this revenge quest or something like that.
And you can contrast that to Littlefinger.
Exactly. Littlefinger, like is the Wormtongue of the story. You get that. It's more convincing why he wants to give bad advices and stuff like that. Wormtongue is like...
And even when Wormtongue gives bad advice and the king is a bad king, nobody thinks, okay, we need to usurp the king, kill the king.
See what happened in the Westeros, they had the Mad King.
Also, another difference is the monsters in the story. In A Song of Ice and Fire, the monsters were created in order to fend off evil humans who were trespassing into territory that is not theirs.
Yeah.
And in contrast, in Lord of the Rings, Sauron, he doesn't even exist, and you don't know anything about him. He's just an eye.
It's metaphysical.
Metaphysical. So what does he want? It's like Scar in Lion King. After, I don't want to spoil it, but Mufasa is dead. And then Scar takes over, and then we see what the kingdom has become. The land is barren, and all the herds have left, and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So this is what Sauron wants, basically.
In A Song of Ice and Fire, the true evil in this world is sociopaths, is humans, is men. They are the true evil. They are the evil ones. They are the monsters of the world.
The humans made the first move by trespassing into monster territory, beyond the wall, stuff like that. While in Lord of the Rings, the humans do nothing, and then the orcs come in and say, "Oh my God, we're victims." Okay. Also, another difference, there's the children of the forest, and you have the trees in Lord of the Rings. The children of the forest, they have their own thing going on, and they're a little bit evil, whatever, and they make mistakes. But the trees, can you do like a tree now? The tree thing?
I'm doing it right now. It's just very, very, very slow. Very, very, very slow because the trees are very slow. So fast forward a little bit.
Okay, so when we look at those incredible differences in the very core of these two stories that are often bundled together but couldn't be farther apart, you can get some sense that A Song of Ice and Fire is a reaction to Lord of the Rings.
I think that goes without saying. Think about it. J.R.R Martin sits down to write his magnum epos, his fantasy epic.
Right.
Even though he's alone in the room, there is like this huge shadow over his shoulder. Which
Shadow
is
baby?
Shadow, dead man over his British dead man.
And he can't escape it.
No,
like every word he types, Lord of the Rings sits
I'm not sure about that,
it.
but
every single pixel in the world is thinking about Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
That's just science.
Tolkien is like the father of modern fantasy. Like he said, we all owe Tolkien everything. All of us writers of fantasy owed him everything.
And
I think you can say that Lord of the Rings, in that sense, is a story from the point of view of the father. Like it's a father's story. In a literary sense, the Lord of the Rings is like the story of fathers, like the all-knowing narrator. He knows everything.
Right.
And in terms of the characters themselves, it's like from top to bottom. Like the one at the top, he knows what to do. If he's good, he will be good. If he's bad, he will be bad.
Okay.
And we all should follow his role, follow him. He knows everything. He's supposed to be there, this Aragorn type, supposed to be the king. Contrast the all-knowing narrator to the POV, unreliable narrator. And it's like modernism against postmodernism in some sense. Because modernism basically says knowledge is come from the top. Knowledge is come from like above, like the institutions, like the kings. And postmodernism says like, no, there is no one knowledge. There are different points of views who all hold some kind of value.
Wrong. That is absolutely
wrong. Try to think of Lord of the Rings being told through POVs.
Let's take the example of the Fellowship of the Ring. Let's put the Fellowship of the Ring inside the scene from Song of Ice and Fire.
Okay.
It's obvious, like the model the people. We need to murder them. It's obvious. But I don't like this elf character. I don't trust him. What's his goal? What's his take here? And Boromir?
And is the elf really strong? Because we know that other houses in the elf kingdom do not really support him.
What about the day after? Okay, we defeat Mordor.
Who gets what?
Who gets what? How do we share?
Like the differences between them in Lord of the Rings are very petty. Yeah. You are an elf. I am a dwarf, thus I mistrust you. Yeah. And you have to get over those petty differences in order to accomplish the goal, while in A Song of Ice and Fire, there are a million options on where to go and what to do, and you can tell a million stories about it.
Everyone has an interest. The characters themselves are political characters.
So you can say that J.R.R Martin is basically J.R.R Tolkien's literary son. He was born from this incredible father figure.
He got the authority of fantasy from this father figure.
But then he went on to do something else.
Yeah.
He wrote a story about characters that hate their fathers.
And more than that, I think he wants to kill the father. He wants to kill the father. And think about that. Think about that. You thought about that? Okay. The main protagonist of Game of Thrones is a father. Right. He's not that complex character. He's good, he's honest and stuff
noble,
like that.
Honorable. He's basically taken straight out of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, and J.R.R Martin kills him in the first book. He kills the father. And the way he kills the father is also to tell us, I'm not like my father. I remember when I read A Lord of Ice and Fire, A Lord of the Rings, I remember I really liked Boromir. Like I said, this is a very complex character. Then Tolkien took the most complex, for me, the most complex character in the first book and killed him in the first book. And in the movies, who played Boromir?
Is that an accident? Is that a coincidence?
Probably not.
So you think that J.R.R Martin specifically requested Sean Bean to play Ned so he could complete the killing of the father in a literary sense and watch it?
This was fuck you towards Tolkien there. Yeah. Maybe even subconsciously. Who am I to mansplain J.R.R Martin's subconscious,
subconscious plane?
Yeah, subconscious plane, I like it.
And J.R.R Martin and Tolkien are very different. Tolkien was a soldier. J.R.R Martin was a conscientious objector. objectioner in Vietnam, during Vietnam. And Tolkien first fought in the First and Second World War, in the First World War, but it was an era of evil empires and Nazis and Soviets.
He's a creature of modernism. He grew up in the early 20th century. And George R.R. Martin grew up in the 60s. And the 60s is like the ultimate rebellion against the father authority.
Right.
And philosophically, in terms of philosophy, it was an era of post-structuralism, like breaking the structures. The era of deconstructionalism, to deconstruct the structures, tear them apart and start with the point of views from them.
And the way it plays out in the story, in A Song of Ice and Fire, you read the story, no evil empire, you can choose which team you want to root. I'm Team Lannister, you're Team Stark, I'm Team Sansa, whatever.
It's only the game.
It's only the game, but in Lord of the Rings, I'm not sure there are any teams. Is somebody on Saruman's team?
Maybe there's like Team Legolas or Team Gimli.
Yeah, but everybody likes everybody, so who cares, right?
Yeah, it's kind of lame.
Okay, so let's get to this video's bold prediction. So, if we compare those two stories and why they are so different, what can we learn from this comparison about what's going to happen in the conclusion of the story?
So let's talk about Aragorn. Aragorn is not a political person.
At all.
At all. Like, and all of his journey towards the end, towards being a king, is like he suffers and stuff like that.
Right, a personal growth.
Personal growth. And the story ends in which he becomes a king and gives everyone, like, you do this, you do this, you do that.
And everything works out fine.
Exactly, and they lived happy ever after. He married the most beautiful girl in the world, in the blah, 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 blah.
What are the odds of that happening?
Yeah. So if we try to find this Aragorn character in A Song of Ice and Fire, I think John maybe is like the best candidate, with black hair, long hair, black hair.
Yeah, good guy, noble, honorable, wants to do the good thing.
He needs to rediscover something about his past and utilize it.
So he will
make a pact with the undead. He has a connection to the undead.
So John is going to win. No?
He will not sit on the throne with the most beautiful girl in the world.
Daenerys.
Yeah. He will not be Aragorn. He will be something else. Maybe Frodo.
Maybe Frodo. Yes, because if this story, A Song of Ice and Fire, is so thoroughly different in its core than Lord of the Rings, and so deliberately different, so knowing all this, John cannot be Aragorn at the end. He cannot.
No.
But if you disagree, or if you have any other thoughts about the comparisons between Lord of the Rings and A Song of Ice and Fire and those two great authors, be sure to mention in the comments. And if you enjoy the video and you want to support us and help us make this channel sustainable, there's a link in the description to our Patreon page, or just go to patreon.com/GOT Academy. Any support will be very helpful. Thank you. And here are some other videos that you might not have watched. Like if you enjoyed the video. Bye everybody.